An entitled Karen thinks that she owns the drive-thru by demanding that she get her food before anybody else. But when she doesn't get her way, she starts to cause chaos in a way that is truly unacceptable. And now, as a result, she's on the run from the police, as she booked it from the parking lot the second they showed up. Here's what happened. So I'm at Chick-Fil-A the other day, and at this location, they have two drive-thru lanes, one for regular orders and the other for mobile orders. And for me, I always use the mobile lane because it is way faster. Well, that is until today. Things start going wrong once the entitled Karen of this story comes into play. She cuts me off while pulling into the parking lot, which is the first big red flag, but honestly, I think to myself, whatever. There's no one else in the mobile lane, so it's not that big of a deal. Well, when I pull in behind her, I immediately notice that she's not holding a phone to scan a QR code like a normal person. Instead, she's sitting there, waving at the attendants. Well, newsflash, nobody monitors the mobile lane, so naturally, she starts laying on the horn like a lunatic. Eventually, though, an employee does come over. Before he's even at her car, she starts barking out her order. And this is not a short one. This woman orders like she's feeding an army. After ordering her food, she drives off without paying. The guy literally has to chase her down to get her payment. Then she pulls up to the window where I'm still stuck right behind her, despite having scanned my code and being ready to grab my food in seconds. The employee at the window asks her to pull around to one of the waiting spots, but she refused to do so. She then screamed out, "No, it always takes longer if I pull around." The employee then explains very patiently, if I might add, that pulling around won't delay her order, but it will let them serve the people behind her whose food is ready. She then responds by saying, "It's not really fair to prepare their orders before mine when I was here first." The employee tries to explain how food stations work, but she interrupts him by saying, "They should all be working on the first person's order. I know you just make minimum wage, but this really shouldn't be that hard to understand." After what felt like forever, the manager appears at the window. He leans out and very politely asks her to pull around, even promising to personally bring her food out as soon as it's ready. To top it all off, he offers her a complimentary peppermint shake as an apology for the inconvenience. Well, what does this entitled Karen do? She knocks the shake out of his hand, and it goes flying everywhere. On him, inside the window, it's total chaos. She even has the nerve to honk her horn at me. But finally, karma starts to take hold. A couple minutes later, two police officers walk around the front of the drive-thru road, coming straight towards her. This Karen laughs at the manager, saying, "Oh, you really called the police?" The manager calmly responds by saying, "No, ma'am, they were at the counter when I walked by covered in the shake that you knocked over. They also heard you shouting and honking. I told them it was fine, but they wanted to check on the situation." At this point, the officers reached her car and told her if she doesn't pull forward and talk to them, they will arrest her for assault and move the car themselves. Well, she finally pulls around, but surprisingly, she doesn't stop. And instead, she speeds out of the parking lot. Well, when she did this, the police just laughed. She has a very easy to remember vanity plate, and they told the manager that they're adding obstruction of justice for failing to comply with a lawful order when they finally will track her down. And hopefully that happens soon, because the way she treated everybody was absolutely unacceptable. Wow, I can't imagine going to Chick-Fil-A and acting like that. Is the food you're getting really worth going to jail? Like seriously, just get in line like everybody else, or actually order properly through the application like you should have. So hopefully for the sake of the story and everybody who was affected by this weirdo, she gets arrested for running away from the police, because her behavior is absolutely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My boyfriend owes me thousands of dollars that he is still refusing to pay me back on, as he continuously makes excuses and keeps putting off the date that he's supposed to pay me back. Because right now, I feel very frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my boyfriend and I have been together for over 2 years. In the beginning, we split expenses for dates and meals equally, but over time, I've ended up covering most of the cost. He rarely takes out his card, even though he claims to make over 3 times more than me in a year. I work one job, I earn a decent income, and I can live independently, but the imbalance has been frustrating. Well, to address this, I suggested using Splitwise about 1.5 years ago so that we could track shared expenses. I've logged everything diligently, but he has not entered receipts for the few times he's paid, and this year, by about May, he owed me about $5,000. When I started asking him to pay me back in June, it turned into multiple fights. He made excuses, promised to pay me tomorrow, but rarely followed through. By August, he had paid me $2,600, but $2,400 is still pending. He promised to pay the rest by the first week of October, then he postponed it to November, and then to the end of November, but now it's December and I haven't received anything. He continues to make excuses, even though he clearly has the time and money to pay me back. I've tried everything, calm conversations, begging, even arguing, but nothing works. I even offered to help him use Splitwise, but he doesn't make any effort. What adds to my frustration is his other behavior. He frequently steals small items from grocery stores, and it feels like a pattern of irresponsibility and a lack of accountability. I've considered reaching out to his family for help, but even his stepmother mentioned that he owes her money too. He's paid her back more than he's ever paid me, which makes me feel like he values her relationship more than ours. At this point, I feel hopeless and I don't know how to move forward. So truly, how can I retrieve my money that he owes me? Because at this point, I really don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I don't think you're gonna like what I'm gonna say, but just like previous stories we've covered on this channel, I think this might be a lost cause. If he really did care about you, then he would take the steps to try and pay you back. But this guy's only paid you maybe half of what he should have paid you, and that seriously is so unfair for you. The second someone owes me thousands of dollars, that would literally be the moment I start questioning everything I know about that person, especially if it's someone who's claiming to be in a relationship with me. Like, just look at the way your boyfriend is acting. This is so unfair, it's not even funny. So truly, I'm so sorry you're dealing with this kind of behavior, because you do not deserve this in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not showing up to my sister's wedding, all because she didn't want my girlfriend coming with me, as my family absolutely hates our relationship? Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of context, I don't get along with my family. I was kicked out at 18 years old and forced to live in my car and survive. And I've had to learn how to do everything on my own. Through the time that I was homeless, I never received a single text message, a call, anything from my sister or any of my siblings. The only people that were concerned were one of my friend's moms, who graciously started a GoFundMe and bought me groceries and surprised me with all of it when I was at my lowest point. And then later on, even graciously paid for a transmission rebuild for my car. I mean, truly, I owe it all to that woman. But anyways, fast forward and I'm now doing a lot better. I have a place to live and I have a roommate. I also have another nicer, newer car, as I got a loan myself. And I have a full-time job and a girlfriend. So basically, I'm doing okay. Around this time, my sister gets engaged, and out of the blue, she invites me to her wedding. Now, I'm kind of shocked because the few times I visited my parents, despite what they did to me, the family tore me down and insulted my girlfriend and told me my relationship would never last. All the while, my sister is engaged and the family is praising her, and her husband has essentially become my replacement. Well, I told my parents I would think about it anyways, and I had learned that my sister would be inviting a ton of people who were just acquaintances or friends, and had told my siblings they could bring some people that they knew. So my girlfriend and I just decided to plan on going and just get it over with. Well, my sister learned that I plan on bringing my girlfriend, and she actually tells me no, that she doesn't want her there. At this point, I was frustrated, and I just decided it wasn't even worth it at this point. Why would I show up for them when they haven't even talked to me in a year? So I don't go, I stay home, and I just sleep. But then I wake up to a bunch of angry text messages with literally everybody guilt-tripping me, asking me where I was. But you know what? I ignored them and I went about my day. So truly, am I the jerk considering the circumstances? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Yeah, I don't blame you for a second for not showing up. These people sound incredibly toxic, and they've honestly gone completely overboard with hating on you. It doesn't sound like they have a good reason for any of this too. Like, they not only kicked you out when you're 18, but then when you do decide to come around, they trash you and your girlfriend. And it's like, wait a second, what's going on here? This is really not fair, especially considering the fact that you had to rebuild your entire life. These people left you with nothing, and now they're expecting you to play by their rules, despite the fact that everybody else can bring someone with them. So truly, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. I regret moving with my partner to another country, because now I feel completely trapped, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 39-year-old female, and my 56-year-old partner and I have been living together for almost 3 years now. 1 year in my house offshore, and 2 years in his country. I've been out of work for 2 years since I left my job, my social life with my friends and family, and all of my hobbies. I enjoyed swimming, yoga, gym workouts, and free diving. I've now been struggling because I no longer have these, which I know might seem like a foolish move, since I had a pretty happy life back home. And besides the boring job that I had, I deeply miss everything else. I thought I could make new friends here and pick up my hobbies, but I didn't realize how isolating his place would be, and I'm now starting to feel very depressed and anxious. I didn't work because we were trying to conceive, and I believe that reducing stress would help out. We were were advised to undergo IVF, but it turns out we don't have the financial resources for that. I also worked for him on the farm sometime before and asked if he could pay me hourly to help cover some of the bills I left back home. However, he stopped paying me hourly because he felt it's not really a teamwork between us. Well, I agreed, and he gives me $580 per month as help. I still help with the work, and he said the money he saves from my work can go towards my wants and my needs. But somehow we always end up without any extra funds, which after checking the figures, I believe is true. So now I'm still in debt, I have no savings, and I can't buy or do the things that I want. I'd like to go home, but in my country, it's difficult to find a job in your 40s, especially since the industry I worked in is struggling at the moment. I feel trapped, but I can't fully open up to my partner because he is sensitive, and sometimes he takes things personally. I think this may also be due to the financial stress he's experiencing, but I honestly feel so lost that now I don't know what to do. So if there ever was a situation where I can confidently say this is incredibly sketchy, this would absolutely be it, because what you just described sounds like a nightmare. Let me get this straight. You moved to another country, you have no job, you have no social life, you left your friends, your family, and all of the things you enjoyed to live with a man who basically has you working on his farm for free. He's not paying you, and he gives you like what, $500 a month, claiming that all the money he's saving is going to be used towards anything you want or you need? Like, what is going on right now? This guy basically tricked you into working for free under the assumption that you two love each other, and you're too afraid to say anything because he's sensitive. Like, dude, look around and see your surroundings. This is not a healthy environment. If anything, this is like what nightmares are made of. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would reach out to family or friends back home and send them some kind of like SOS message, because it really seems like he's trying to trap you with him on purpose, because none of this is adding up, and I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to try and go back home. Am I the jerk for not letting my ex-roommate use my Amazon Prime account after she spent all of my gift card on movies that she wanted? Because now she's calling me up screaming that I ruined her movie night, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, my roommate and I were roommates for part of the first semester in college, and for the sake of the story, I'll call this roommate Jay. At first, everything was great. We would eat together, we would talk all night, and we would go shopping. But it all changed, however, when we rushed for a sorority. I got into the one that she wanted, and she got into a different one. From then on, she was a little more distant, but we were still good friends. It's also worth mentioning that on our shared TV, which I bought by the way, I paid for Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, and Peacock, while her parents paid for Max and Netflix. And I didn't have a problem with this because I had money saved from a young age to do what I wanted with in college. Later, I found out that she had to move out due to health reasons, and I know how it sounds, but it was actual health reasons with certain foods that she needed to cook. I was a little bit upset because she told me a week before she moved out, but either way, I understood and I supported her. The entire process, she was out with her friends at her sorority and left me to pack up her stuff, which I did because I wanted to be nice. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, and she asked me to log out of her Netflix and Max account, which I had not used since she moved out and frankly forgot that she had. So I did that as soon as possible. Later that same week, I look on my Amazon account and I saw that a gift card I had on there was used up. When I looked into it, I saw that some movies were rented that I didn't rent. So I texted and asked if she had rented movies or something like that, and she said that she did. I asked her why she was on my Amazon account, and she said that she didn't have one and that she wanted it. I told her that it wasn't fair that I had to get off the Netflix, but she can spend the money to watch a movie. Well, she said it was different because the Netflix account was hers, and according to her, the Amazon account was something we shared. But I said no. I told her that if she didn't get off my account, then I would find a way to kick her off myself. Well, she refused, so I called my dad and we figured it out. She then called me screaming that I ruined her movie night with her friends, but I basically said, well then pay for your own then. So truly, was I wrong for doing what I did? Because right now, I'm not sure if I was the jerk or not. No, you are definitely not the jerk. Jay sounds incredibly entitled and very spoiled. You mean to tell me that they actually asked you to get off of their account, but then they go on yours and spend actual money you had saved up on that thing? Like, are you kidding me right now? That is so unfair. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, because what she did to you, in my opinion, is way worse than what you did to her. Am I the jerk for telling my brother-in-law that he needs to stop his weird hobby before he ruins the entire family? Here's what happened. So this has been brewing for a while now, so truly, you need to buckle up for this one. My brother-in-law, who we will call Dan, is my husband's older brother, and I guess he's always been a bit eccentric, but things have escalated escalated recently in a way that has me seriously questioning my sanity. For context, Dan is single. He works from home and has no kids. Over the past year, he's gotten really into urban exploration, and we're talking like going into abandoned buildings and tunnels and stuff like that. At first, it seemed kinda cool. It was weird, but it was harmless. He would show up to family dinners with stories about this haunted factory or that abandoned hospital, and it's just like, okay, whatever. We all just humored him and it was fine. But then he started bringing stuff back, like random junk that he has scavenged, old signs and broken chairs, creepy dolls, I mean, you name it, he brought it, and he calls it reclaiming history. My husband and I tried to politely suggest that maybe this isn't safe, but he just brushes it off like we're boring normies who just don't get it. The breaking point came last weekend. My husband and I hosted a family barbecue, and Dan showed up late, dragging this rusty, massive old safe he found in some abandoned house. He parked it in the middle of our driveway as if he just scored a treasure chest. He's grinning ear to ear, telling everyone he's gonna crack it open because according to him, it could have money or gold or some kind of secret to it. But guys, let me tell you something. This safe was disgusting. It smelled like mildew, it was covered in cobwebs, and God knows what was inside. So I told him he could not keep it at our house. But when I said that, he got all defensive, saying I was ruining his discovery and being uptight. My husband tried to back me up, but Dan just said, "Oh, you're just jealous because I have a cool hobby." We ended up making him leave with the safe, but not before he made a huge scene about how nobody in this family supports him. Well, now my in-laws are mad at me, saying that I overreacted and embarrassed him in front of everyone. They think that I should have just let him keep it for the day to avoid the drama. So now I'm starting to wonder if I'm the jerk here, because at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, for starters, I have to say that I think Dan's hobby is a little bit weird, but it is harmless for the most part. If he wants to explore like abandoned buildings or tunnels, then go for it, like that's really cool. And while I think it's wrong to steal things from those locations, such as like dolls or even a safe in this case, overall it's relatively harmless and nobody's really doing anything wrong. But for me, the biggest red flag is the fact that this guy is bringing this stuff over to your house. Because sure, he probably really enjoys looking through these abandoned buildings and finding cool artifacts that he can bring back and show to people. But for him to bring it over to your house and drop it literally in your driveway and be like, wow, look at this thing I found. Like that to me is a little bit too much and way over the line. Because seriously, I wouldn't want a safe in my driveway, and that's hardly him scavenging anything. He straight up stole a safe from an abandoned property and said, oh man, look at this treasure chest. And it leads me to believe that this guy is hardly an explorer, because if anything, he's kind of just a thief. And the fact that he's bringing it to your house to be like, look at this thing that definitely smells like garbage, like that would be super annoying to me, and I would be like, dude, just keep it at your place. I don't want it in my yard. So I don't think you're the jerk in this situation, because he really should not be bringing this stuff to your house, because that, in my opinion, completely crosses the line. Today, I messed up by going camping in the woods by myself, and I've honestly never been more terrified in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so I decided that it would be a great idea to go camping in the woods alone. Just me, my tent, and a weekend of solitude to clear my head. No distractions, no noise, just nature. And I really thought that it sounded peaceful, but trust me when I say this, it was not. Everything was fine at first. I found a spot, I pitched my tent after struggling for way too long with the stupid poles, and I even got a fire going, which I was way too proud of myself about. By the time the sun started setting, I was feeling pretty good about myself. I had some snacks, a little folding chair, and a nice fire to keep me warm. Then the night fell, and oh my god, I was not ready for how dark it gets in the woods. Like I thought my eyes would adjust, but no. Every sound, the wind, the leaves, some animal far off, it all sounded like it was coming straight for me. I kept thinking to myself, you're fine, this is just how nature sounds like. But I was holding my flashlight like a sword just in case. Around midnight, I started hearing rustling that sounded way too close to my tent. It wasn't just the wind. This was something moving. My heart was racing, but I convinced myself it was probably a raccoon or something like that. I stayed still, trying to not make any noise, but the sound just kept getting louder. And then, I swear I heard what sounded like footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps circling my tent. At this point, I'm losing it. I'm holding my pocket knife in one hand, shaking so bad I'm probably useless if anything happens. I tried to turn off my flashlight so that whoever it was or whatever it was wouldn't be able to see me. But in reality, I was too scared to even reach for the button. The footsteps stopped and there was a silence for a few minutes. I was about to convince myself I imagined it when something tapped on the side of my tent. I have never been so close to passing out in my life. I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. I just sat there clutching my knife, waiting for the end to take me. Eventually, I heard the footsteps fade into the distance, and I forced myself to peek outside. I couldn't see anything, but I didn't feel safe staying there. So I packed up as fast as I could and I booked it back to my car. It was the longest walk of my life, and I was 100% convinced that something was following me the entire time. I drove home in the middle of the night, shaking the entire way. I still don't know what or who was out there, but I'm honestly never doing that ever again. Oh man, there is no way I would ever go camping by myself. Like, that sounds really scary, and there's no way anyone could convince me to do that. So the fact that you did that in the first place is very impressive. But hopefully, if you ever do that again, something like that never happens again, because that sounds like an absolute nightmare. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.